I will be reading chapter 6 of The Hobbit in Latin. And to start off, I would like to actually go back and forth between English and Latin. So it's a little bit different than the last few chapters that I've read. I think that I'll be able to have more people understand the Latin by going back and forth between English and Latin. So, here is out of the frying pan into the fire, a SARTAGINE in IGNEM. Bilbo had escaped the goblins, but he did not know where he was. He had lost hood, cloak, food, pony, his buttons, and his friends. He wandered on and on till the sun began to sink westwards. Sink westwards. Behind the mountains. Their shadows fell across Bilbo's path, and he looked back. Then he looked forward and could see before him only ridges and slopes, falling towards lowlands and plains, glimpsed occasionally between the trees. Bilbo, a goblinis effugerat, said ubi esset nescuit, nescivit, signome, cuculum, amiculum, cibum, manum, orbiculum, et amicus amiserat, ulterius, et ulterius erabat, donec sol ad occidentem occidere cepit, pone montes. Umbre quorum trans viam Bilbonis descenderunt, qui rorsum aspexit. Tum prorsum aspexit, et ante eum solum iuga atque declivia descendentia ad campos et locus planos orare dis pectos inter arbores videre potuit. Good heavens, he exclaimed. I seem to have got right to the other side of the misty mountains, right to the edge of the land beyond. Where, oh, where can Gandalf and the dwarves have got to? I only hope to goodness they are not still back there in the power of the goblins. Pro di immortales, exclamavit, ego usque ad latus alterum monsium nebulosorum ad venisa videor, usque ad limentere ulterioris, quo et quo Gandalfus atque nani ierunt profidem utinam intergo ilic in potestate gobelinorum ad hunc non sint. He still wandered on out of the little high valley, over its edge, and down the slopes beyond. But all the while, a very uncomfortable thought was growing inside him. He wondered whether he ought not, now he had the magic ring, to go back into the horrible, horrible tunnels and look for his friends. He had just made up his mind that it was his duty, that he must turn back, and very miserable he felt about it when he heard voices. Ulterius etiam erabat, et parva valli alta, super limen eius, et deorsum declivia ultra, sed semper sententia incommoda intra eum crescebat. Miratus est nunc annulum magicum habuit, se in horribiles cuniculos redire oporterate ad amicos querendos, anima modo induxit rem esse officium suum sibi revertendum esse et qua in miserimus fui, cum voces audivit. He stopped and listened. Concitit et auscultavit. It did not sound like goblins. Sonitum non gobelinorum esse visus est. So he crept forward carefully. Ita prorsus caute reptavit. He was on a stony path winding downwards with a rocky wall on the left hand. In semita lapidosa fuit, quae orsum se insinuabat. On the other side, the ground sloped away, and there were dells below the level of the path, overhung with bushes and low trees. Cum muro saxia ad sinistrum, at alterum terra fuit declivis, et sub semita fuerunt luci fructicibus, atque arboribus humilibus praetentibus. In one of those dells under the bushes, people were talking. In luco quodam in fructibus loquebantur homines. He crept still nearer, and suddenly he saw, peering between two big boulders, a head with a red hood on it. Proprius reptavit et subito inter dua ingentia saxa caput cum cuculo rubro de speciens vidit. It was Balin doing lookout. Fuit Balinus circumspectans. He had still got the ring on, for fear of meeting something unexpected and unpleasant, and he saw that Balin was looking straight at him without noticing him. Pro gaudio plaudaverit, atque clamaverit, sed nihil feci. Analamad huc induebat veritus ne nescio, cui inopinato atque in iucundo obviam irate, et vidit Balinum directe aspicere ad eum, sed non animadvertere eum. I will give them all a surprise, he thought, as he crawled into the bushes at the edge of the dell. A ficiam ut illi obstupefacti sint cogitavit. Dum in fructices in limine luci reptat. Gandalf was arguing with the dwarves. Gandalfus cum nanis disputabat. They were discussing all that had happened to them in the tunnels. De omnibus, quae in cuniculi sibi e venisent, loque bantur, and wondering and debating what they were to do now. Et mirabantur atque secum agibantur quid nunc agerent. The dwarves were grumbling, and Gandalf was saying that they could not possibly go on with their journey, leaving Mr. Baggins in the hands of the goblins, without trying to find out if he were alive or dead, and without trying to rescue him. Nani musabant et Gandalfus dicebat se domino Baggins in manibus gobelinorum relicto nequaquam iter perdere posa queen invenire conarent utrum vivus esset an mortus et queen eum servare Conarint. After all, he is my friend, said the wizard, and not a bad little chap. I feel responsible for him. I wish to goodness you hadn't lost him. Saltem amicus meus est, magus inquit. Neque malum salaputium sentio me Deo prestare, profidum utinam eum non amicisetis. The dwarves wanted to know why he had ever been brought at all. Why he could not stick to his friends and come along with them. And why the wizard had not chosen someone with more sense. He has been more trouble than you so far, said one. If we have got to go back now into those abominable tunnels to look for him, then drat him, I say. Nani voluerunt scire, quam mobrem Ille quam latus esset, quam mobrem ille amicis ad herere, atque cum illis progredi non potuisit, et quam mobrem magus nescio quim maiorum ingenio non elegisit, ad hoc molestior quam utilior fuit, unus inquit, si nunc nobis redendum est, in illos cuniculos abomidandos ut eum queramos, tum di eum perdant itadico. Gandalf answered angrily, I brought him, and I don't bring things that are of no use. Either you help me to look for him, or I go and leave you here to get out of the mess as best you can yourselves. If we can only find him again, you will thank me before all is over. Whatever did you want to go and drop him for, Dory? Gandalfus iratus respondit. Ego eum tuli, neque res inulitis fero, aut me invatis, juvatis, signomi, ad eum querendum, aut discedam et vos hic reliquam ut ipsi e turbaista, quam maxime positis, e fugiatis, si modo eum iterum invenire possimus, gratias mihi dabitis antequam omnia finitia or finita erunt, quam obrem eum domitravis, Dory. You would have dropped him, said Dory, if a goblin had suddenly grabbed your leg from behind in the dark, tripped up your feet, and kicked you in the back. Tu eum demiseris, Dorius inquit, si repente gobelinus tergo in tenebris crura tua prehenderit, pedes tua supplanaverit, et te in tergo tuo calcaverit. Then why didn't you pick him up again? Tum quare eum non iterum sustulit. Good heavens, can you ask? Goblins fighting and biting in the dark, everybody falling over bodies and hitting one another. You nearly chopped off my head with Glamdring, and Thorin was stabbing here and there and everywhere with Orcrist. All of a sudden, you gave one of your binding flashes, and we saw the goblins running back, whelping and yelping. You shouted, "Follow me, everybody," and everybody ought to have followed. We thought everybody had. There was no time to count, as you know quite well. till we had all dashed through the gate guards, out of the lower door, and helter-skelter down here, and here we are, without the burglar. Confustigate him. Pro de immortalis decisne gobelinis pugnantibus atque mordentibus in tenebris omnibus supra corpora incidentibus atque inter se verberantibus tu me glamdringe pene de culavit et Orinus huc et illuc in ubique or Christo omnia fodiebat. Subito tu udum fulgorem splendidum tuum amisti et gobelinos re trorsu correntes stridentes vidimus tu omnes me sequimini clamavit et omnes secuti esse apportuit. Putavimus omnes id facisse, fuit nihil temporis ad numerandum ut rectissimis schis, donec per custodes porte, ex janua inferiore et praecipites de orsum huc properaver amus nunc hinc sumus sine effractario eam confunde. And here's the burglar, said Bilbo, stepping down in the midst of them and slipping off the ring. Ecce effractarius, Bilbo inquit anila remoto, in medium eorum in gradients. Bless me, how they jumped. When then they shouted with surprise and delight. Gandalf was as astonished as any of them. Di me amit, quomodus saluerunt. Tum stupefacti atque delectati clamabant. Gandalfus tam atonitus quam aliquis fuit, sed magis gaudere quam ceteri visus est. Gandalf was as astonished as any of them, but probably more pleased than any of the others He called to Balin and told him what he thought of a lookout man who let people walk right into them like that without warning. It is a fact that Bilbo's reputation went up a very great deal with the dwarfs after this. If they had still doubted that he was really a first-class burglar in spite of Gandalf's words, they doubted no longer. Balin was the most puzzled of all, but everyone said it was a very clever bit of work. Balinum vocavit cui dixit, quid putaret, de homine circumspectandi, qui homines usque in medium eorum in illo modo sine ad monitione ambulare sinebat. Verum est famam Bilbonis apud nanos post illam rem multo ascendice, etiam si illi dubitaverant eum quidem esse fructarium principem verbis Gandalfi neglectis non jam dubitaverunt, non jam dubitaverunt. Balinus omnium perpleximus fuit, sed omnes dixerunt remese calidissimam. Indeed, Bilbo was so pleased with their praise that he just chuckled inside and said nothing whatever about the ring. And when they asked him how he did it, he said, "Oh, just crept along, very carefully and quietly. Laudes quorum quidem Bilboni adeo placuerunt, ut ille modo cacinaret, et nihil quod cumque de anelo diceret, et cum eum rogavisent, quomodo it facisit, dixit, o modo pursus reptavi, scitisne, cautissimi taciteque. Well, it is the first time that even a mouse has crept along carefully and quietly under my very nose and not been spotted, said Balin, and I take off my hood to you, which he did. Et primus quidem tempus etiam murum caute taciteque sub naso meo riptari neque aspici Balinus inquit et cuculum meum tibi alfero quam rem feci. Balin at your service, said he. Balinus tibi servio inquit. Your servant, Mr. Baggins, said Bilbo. Servus tuus Dominus Baggins, Bilbo inquit. Then they wanted to know all about his adventure after they had lost him, and he sat down and told them everything except about the finding of the ring, not just now, he thought. They were particularly interested in the riddle competition and shuddered most apprehensively at his description of Gollum. Tum omnia de facinoribus eius, postquam eum amiserunt, scire voluerunt, itaque is concedit, et omnia illis narravit, de annulum inveniendo excepto, non in presenti cogitavit. Certaminis enigmatum praecipui studiosi fuerunt, et descriptionem eius goli gratissime horu erunt. And then I couldn't think of any other question with him sitting beside me, ended Bilbo. So I said, "What's in my pocket?" And he couldn't guess in 3 guesses. So I said, "What about your promise? Show me the way out." And he came at me to kill me, and I ran and fell over, and he missed me in the dark. Then I followed him because I heard him talking to himself. He thought I really knew the way out, and so he was making for it. And then he sat down in the entrance, and I couldn't get by. So I jumped over him and escaped and ran down the gate. Et tum questionem alterum cogitare nequivi dum ille juxta me sedet, finem fecit Bilbo. Ita ego dixi, quid in sinu meo est, neque ille tribis conatis con jicere poterat. Ita dixi, quid de promiso tuo, Exitum mihi monstra, sed ili ad me venit ut me nectare, et effugi, et deicidi, et ili in tenebris me amisi. Tum illum secutus sum, quod illum, qui secum loquebantur, audivi, qui qui putavit me re versus scire exitum, itaque ad id progrediebatur, et tum introitu concedit, neque praeterire potuit, ita super eum saluit, et evasi, et ad portum decuri. And what about the guards? They ask. Weren't there any? Quid de custodibus rogaverunt num fuerunt nulli? Oh yes, lots of them, but I dodged him. I got stuck in the door, which was only open a crack, and lost lots of buttons, he said sadly, looking at his torn clothes. But I squeezed through all right, and here I am. Sane multi, sed eius elusi, in janua fixus sum, quae solum e rima aperta est, et multos orbiculos amici, tristis inquit, vestimenta scisa auspiciens, sed per januum quidem se compressi, ecce hic sum. The dwarves looked at him with quite a new respect when he talked about dodging guards, jumping over Gollum, and squeezing through, as though it was not very difficult or very alarming. Nani eam honoris novi satis dignum aspexerunt dum de custodes e ludendo supergolum saliendo et per januum se comprimendo loquitur, quasi res nec difficilis nec periculosa visi. What did I tell you? Said Gandalf, laughing. Mr. Baggins has more about him than you guess. He gave Bilbo a queer look from under his bushy eyebrows as he said this, and the hobbit wondered if he guessed at the part of his tale that he had left out. Quid vobis dixi, Gandalf was reading inquit, est domino Bagginsi magis quam coniacistis. His dictis bilbonem sub superciliis fructicosis miri modis intuitus est, et Hobbitus moratus est num illi partim fabulae quam is miserat coniaciset. Then he had questions of his own to ask, for if Gandalf had explained it all by now to the dwarves, Bilbo had not heard it. He wanted to know how the wizard had turned up again and where they had all got to now. Tum questiones tuas rogandas habuit, nam quam Gandalfus jam rem nanis explicaverat, Bilbo eam non audiverat, quomodo magus redicet, et quo nunc omnes veniscent scire, 'scire, 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 The wizard, to tell the truth, never minded explaining his cleverness more than once, so now he told Bilbo that both he and Elrond had been well aware of the presence of evil goblins in that part of the mountains. Now their main gate used to come out on a different pass, one more easy to travel by, so that they often caught people benighted near their gates. Evidently, people had given up going that way, and the goblins must have opened their new entrance at the top of the pass of which the dwarves had taken quite recently because it had been found quite safe up to now. Re vera mago explicari, calidum suum magis quam semel numquam displicuit, itaque nunc Bilboni dixit, et se et elrondem multum animad vertice gobelinos malos adesse in ille parte montium. Portum autem quorum primum in transito altero ante apertam fuisse, perquam facilius iter factum est, ut homines nocte opprimos juxta porta suas sepe cepissent. Sane homines viam illam relinquissa, et how dubium est quin gobelini ingressum novum in sumo transito recens aperuisent, quam nanis acuti erant, quod usque ad nunc illum tutissimum fuisse. I must see if I can't find a more or less decent giant to block it up again, said Gandalf, or soon there will be no getting over the mountains at all. Mihio portet in venire gigantem magis minus ve honestum, qui illum iterum obstruat, Gandalfus inquit aut mox transmontes numquam ibitur. As soon as Gandalf had heard Bilbo's yell, he realized what had happened. In the flash which killed the goblins that were grabbing him, he had nipped inside the crack, just as it snapped too. He followed after the divers and prisoners right to the edge of the great hall, and there he sat down and worked up the best magic he could in the shadows. Cum primum Gandalfus clamorem Bilbonis audiverat, quid factum esset intellexerat in fulgore, qui gobelinos eam prehendentes necaverat, is in rimum proper averat, cum maxime crepitu clausa erat, agitatores et captivos secutus erat usque ad limen magnae aule et ibi in umbris concederat ad maxima magiam quam potuit gnendam. A very ticklish business it was, said he. Touch and go. Fuit de trepidissima inquit tange et e. But of course, Gandalf had made a special study of bewitchments and fire and lights. Even the Hobbit had never forgotten the magic fireworks at Old Tuke's Midsummer's Eve parties, as you remember. The rest we all know, except that Gandalf knew all about the back door, as the goblins called the lower gate, where Bilbo lost his buttons. As a matter of fact, it was well known to anybody who was acquainted with this part of the mountains. But it took a wizard to keep his head in the tunnels and guide them in the right direction. Said Sane Gandalfus Carminibus cum igne et lucibus praecipue studuerat Hobbitus et siam pyrobolorum cartaceorum magicorum in convivis predii medium estatis sanis tucis numquam oblitus est ut memnisti. Cedere nos omnes scimus nisi quod Gandalfus omnia de postico sciverat quod gobelini portum inferiorum appellabant, qua Bilbo orbiculos miserat re vera illud omnibus qui hanc partimonium noverunt. Bene sciabatur sed opus fuit mago, qui in cuniculus eque mente servata, eos recta via duceret. They made that gate ages ago, he said, partly for a way of escape if they needed one, partly as a way out into the lands beyond, where they still come in the dark and do great damage if they guard it always and no one has ever managed to block it up. They will guard it doubly doubly after this, he laughed. Ille portam saecula ab hinc fecerunt, incrit partium effugiendi causa, si illis via opus fuit, partium in partim egrediendi causa in terras ulterias, in quibus ad hunc in tenebris veniunt atque multas foliant, quam semper custodiunt, nec quisquam eam obstruere potuit, post hanc rem eam bis custodiant recit. All the others laughed too. After all, they had lost a good deal, but they had killed the great goblin and a great many others beside, and they had all escaped, so they might be said to have had the best of it so far. Ceteri quoque riserunt, re vera multa amiserant, sed magnum gobelinum ne caverant atque multos ceteros praeterea et omnes ipsi effuggerant, ergo licet dicere eos hoc tenus habuisse optimum rerum. But the wizard called them to their senses. We must be getting on at once. Now we are a little rested, he said. They will be out after us in hundreds when night comes on, and already shadows are lengthening. Shadows are lengthening. They can smell our footsteps for hours and hours after we have passed. We must be miles on before dusk. There will be a bit of moon if it keeps fine, and that is lucky. Not that they mind the moon much, but it will give us a little light to steer by. Said Maguseus admentus suus vocavit. Statim nobis progrediendum est nunc paulum requieti sumus, inqui nocte adveniente magnae copiae eorum nos querentes exhibunt, et iam umbrae crescunt, Ille vestigia nostra odorari posunt post horas et horas, quam praeterimus ante crepusculum milibus passum nobis progrediendum est, erit pars lunae, si caelum manebi tranquillum, quod felix est. Luna illis non multum displicet, sed lucem nobis dabit, quae nos diriget. Quae nos diriget. Oh, yes, he said in answer to more questions from the Hobbit. You lose track of time inside goblin tunnels. Today's Thursday, and it was Monday night or Tuesday morning that we were captured. We have gone miles and miles and come right down through the heart of the mountains, and are now on the other side, quite a shortcut. But we are not at the point to which our pass would have brought us. We are too far to the north and have some awkward country ahead, and we are still pretty high up. Let's go on. Oh, ita respondens questionibus pluribus Hobbitus inquit, in cuniculus gobelinorum vestigium temporis amitis. Hodies dies Jovis, et fuit aut nox die lunae, aut mane die martis, inco captis sumus. Milia passum venimus, et usque percormontium descentibus, et nunc in latere altero sumus via fuit satis compendiaria, sed non in loco ad sumus, quo transitus noster nos duxerit, ad septentrionis longius sumus, et in fronte est terra difficilis, etiam ad modum in excelso sumus progrediamur. I'm dreadfully hungry, groaned Bilbo. He was suddenly aware that he had not had a meal since the night before last. Just think about that for a hobbit. His stomach felt all empty and loose, and his legs all wobbly, now that the excitement was over. Valde Asurien sum Bilbo gemuit. Qui subito sensi se a nocte ante noctem ante novissimum non cenavisse. Id prohobito solum cogita. solum cogito. Stomachus omnino in anis laxusque esse visus est et cura tremula nunc concitatio finita est. Can't help it, said Gandalf, unless you'd like to go back and ask the goblins nicely to let you have your pony back and your luggage. Id Uvari non possum, Gandalfus inquit, nisi redire ubi placeat ut gobelinus venuste roganes numanum tuum et impedimenta tibi redant. No, thank you, said Bilbo. Maxima gratias ago tibi, Bilbo inquit. Very well, then, we must just tighten our belts and trudge along, or we shall be made into supper, and that will be much worse than having none ourselves. Maxime tunc nobis cingula constrigenda sunt et poro pedibus facies progrediendum aut nos in cena mutabimur que res multo peorerit quam aliqui nobis defuerit. As they went on, Bilbo looked from side to side for something to eat, but the blackberries were still only in flower, and of course there were no nuts, not even hawthorn berries. He nibbled a bit on sorrel, and he drank from a small mountain stream that crossed the path, and he ate 3 wild strawberries that he found on its bank, but it was not much good. Dum progrediuntur Bilbo hinc atque ilinc asculenta querebat, sed rubi etiamnum in floribus fuerunt, et certe nuces non fuerunt, et etiam acini crategi oxicante parvum Lapathi rosit et a rivo montano qui iter transibat bibit signovi bibit et tria fraga quae in ripa invenit edit sed non multo ad rem. Okay. They still went on and on. The rough path disappeared, the bushes and the long grasses between the boulders, the patches of rabbit-cropped turf, the rime and the sage and the marjoram and the yellow rock roses all vanished, and they found themselves at the top of a wild, steep slope of fallen stones, the remains of a landslide. When they began to go down this, rubbish and small pebbles rolled down from their feet. Soon larger bits of split stone went clattering down and started other pieces below them slithering and rolling. Then lumps of rock were disturbed and bounded off, crashing down with a dust and a noise. Before long, the whole slope above them and below them seemed on the move, and they were sliding away, huddled all together in a fearful confusion of slipping, rattling cracking slabs and stones. Ad hoc progressi sunt poro et poro. Samita duro evanuit fructices et gramina longa iter saxamania et pani herbe a cuniculos tonse. Timum atque salvia atque amoracus et rose suxorum flave omnes evanuerunt et illi invenerunt. Se esse in somo lato atque precipite clevi saxorum deictorum. Que fuerunt reliqua lapsus terrae, cum descendere cepissent, rudere adque parvi lapili, e pedibus voluti sunt. Mox fragmenta saxorum fractorum ingentiorum, creptibus descendebant ut fragmenta altera infra inciderent que laberentur et voluerentur. Tum masse saxose, massa saxose, commovebantur, que ex ciliebant, fragose pulvere atque sonitru descendentes mox omnis clivus super eus atque infra eus moveri visus est et globosi elebebantur saxis crusticis que labentibus creptantibus fragmentibus confusis. It was the trees at the bottom that saved them. They slid into the edge of a climbing wood of pines, and there stood right up the mountain slope from the deeper, darker forest of the valley below. Some caught hold of the trunks and swung themselves into lower branches. Some, like the little hobbit, got behind a tree to shelter from the onslaught of rocks. Soon the danger was over. The slide had stopped, and the last faint crashes could be heard as the largest of the disturbed stones went bounding and spinning among the bracken and the pine roots far below. Arbores in imo eus servaverunt, lapsi sunt limen nemoris ascendentis pinum, que hic tendit, e silvis altioribus atrioribus infrosque secundum clivum montis, ali truncis ceptis se iactaverunt in ramos inferiores, ali sicut parvus hobitus post arborum ierunt, ut a impetu saxorum tegerentur. Mox periculum finitum est, lapsus destiterat, atque ultimi fragores habetes audiri potuerunt, ut ingentiore saxorum commotorum inter felices et radices pinum long infra deciliebant atque volvebantur. Well, that has got us on a bit, said Gandalf, and even goblins tracking us will have a job to come down here quietly. N. Ab illa re polo perexibus Gadolphus inquit etiam gobellini nos investigantes taciti huc agre descendent. I dare say, grumbled Bomber, but they won't find it difficult to send stones bouncing down on our heads. The dwarves and Bilbo were feeling far from happy and were rubbing their bruised and damaged legs and feet. Sane, Bombur Musavit, said Illis nihilarit negotii de mitera saxa salientia et in capita nostra. Nani et Bilbo sentiebant se longe a felicitate ab esse, et contusa lesaque cruratque pedes fricabant. Nonsense. We are going to turn aside here out of the path of the slide. We must be quick. Look at the light. Jere hic e via lapsus dever temus nobis festinandum est lucem aspicite. The sun had long gone behind the mountains. Already the shadows were deepening about them. Though far away through the trees and over the black tops of those growing lower down, they could still see the evening lights on the plains beyond. They limped along, now as fast as they were able, down the gentle slopes of a pine forest in a slanting path leading steadily southward. At times, they were pushing through a sea of blackening, with tall fronds rising right above the hobbit's head. At times, they were marching along quiet over a floor of pine needles. And all the while, the forest gloom got heavier and the forest silence deeper. There still was no wind that evening to bring even a sea sighing into the branches of the trees. Sole post montes, longe ocaso, Jam circum eos umbrae altiores erunt, quamquam longe per arbores, adque super vertices nigros ilarum, quae inferius crescebant, luces vesperi in campis, ultra ad hunc videre potuerunt. Per clivos moles, silvae pinum secundum semitam obliquam, quae ad meridiem constanter tendebant, claudicantes cum celerime descenderunt, aliquando mare felicium foliis altis ascendentibus usque super caput hobiti perum tebant, aliquando quam taciti super solum aquum pinum iter faciebant, ut caligo silvae dainsiur fiebant, adque silentium silvae altius. Vesperi illo erat, nihil venit, qui etiam suspirium maris, in Ramus Arborum. In Ramus Arborum, ferrate.